This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Audible. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023. We are in Nevada, in the desert, at a racetrack. And I have Malte Sievers here of Mercedes, who's going to talk to us about the EQXX. This is a car I have ridden on as a passenger. I've driven, and you guys are showing again here. And I'm super excited about the technology in this car. So I want to thank Mercedes, by the way, for bringing us to Las Vegas and putting us up. That was super awesome. And so, Malte, there's a few things that are really standing out to me in the technology in this car. It's kind of breaking a lot of rules, right? And that's kind of what I want to talk about with you.
Okay.
Efficiency is the key, and you guys are really focusing on that by doing things like passive cooling, right? Like you're not using liquid cooling on the battery, for example. And that makes the pack smaller and lighter with the same kind of energy density. And you're using a rear motor only in this particular car for efficiency. And then there's Aero. And so walk us through all the different steps that really make the tech unique on this car compared to like the production EVs that my audience is familiar with.
Yeah, gotcha. So we started in the middle of 2020 with this car. And our original like goal or task or whatever you want to call it was to build a full electric car that can actually go further than 1,000 kilometers or further than 620 miles on a single charge, right? So that was the big kicker at the start. That's what we wanted to build.
Right.
And we realized basically at the first day, that we got to go, like you said, like we got to put all these new technologies in there.
Break the rules.
Do it right. Put everything like a way that we did before and just start fully fresh. Because that is a lot further than we've ever gone with any other fully electric vehicle.
Yeah.
And so you need to like find new ways of doing it, right? If you want to go further, you got to get new technologies in there. And that's what we did. And like you said before, it's a whole bunch of technologies, right? It's not one thing. You might think you could just get a ginormous battery, right? With a huge amount of energy in it. Which, like, in theory, you can do. We just don't feel like that's going to get us where we want to go.
That's kind of what Lucid is doing in a way, right? But they're doing it the traditional way, right? Like, they're not breaking that many rules.
I mean, to be fair, we still want to have as much energy in there as possible, right? We want to get the density as high as possible, but we realized we got to be efficient. Like, the key to the success of a car like this is efficiency, and that's why you need efficient technologies in there.
So we have a 100 kilowatt pack, roughly, usable,
right? Yeah.
And it is, remind me how much smaller and lighter it is than an equivalent like EQS pack.
Right. So in comparison to the EQS right now, it's like roughly 50% less in volume and 30% less in weight.
So what is roughly the weight of the car to give people perspective?
Right. So this is, going in like SI European measurements, right? So it's 1,750 kilograms. I think that's like 3,850-ish pounds, roughly,
So
right,
that's
in that area.
Pretty light for even an EV, generally a 100 kilowatt style EV. So, so that's a big savings right there. And then in size, it means you can make a car that's really sleek, right? This is a 4-door, 4-seater, kind of a coupe, sporty GT car. And you're not sacrificing any comfort and any performance, I think. I mean, I've driven the car, and that's the other thing that blows my mind. Rear motor, single motor, and it is about 200-something, 300 horsepower, and it feels way faster because you have so much less weight to move around.
Yep.
And then, of course, it improves the handling because you don't need air suspension anymore. You can do simpler suspension system. So every component gets lighter. Right?
Yep.
And that adds to the final tally of weight saving. Yep. So talk us through some of the decisions that were made at like the motor, the braking, the suspension setup to reduce now that we have a lighter battery to start with.
So it is a 4-door coupe.
Right.
But we didn't start out, like we didn't decide we want to build a 4-door coupe. We basically found the form of the car while thinking about what we wanted to achieve with the car, right? So this is really the shape and the concept you need to have a car that can travel that far with that little amount of energy.
Plus, you had to do the aero, right? The aero is so critical. So
Super
you had to
critical.
really design the car around the aero but you made it look good. So what I love about this car personally is that it's a concept, guys, but it's not. It drives. You get in the car, it feels like a production car. All the buttons work, everything is there. It just feels like a car from 10 years from now, but exists today. That's the thing that blows my mind that you did.
So there's a whole bunch of things when we try to, like, we basically, as you do, you create a concept, you look at all the individual areas of development of a car that you can optimize, and then you need to prioritize, basically, right? You have some things that are more important and that just have a larger lever on efficiency than others, right? And as you've said, like, aerodynamics is key with a car like this, because we want to travel fast. This car is really built for highways and the Autobahn in Germany and in Europe. So because we want to travel fast, that's why aerodynamics is so important.
Right.
If we build a city car, it'd be a slightly different story, right?
For sure. And but it's not the goal, right? The goal is you're trying to make a car that's a Mercedes in the tradition of a Mercedes, you know, Autobahn capable, cruiser, GT, push the pedal and it goes kind of experience.
Want to cross the continent, basically.
Yeah.
That kind of car.
1,000 kilometers.
Yep. Yeah.
So speaking of the little things you did, for example, my thought was when I first saw the car was, we'll have, like, the mirrors will be cameras. But that's a great anecdote. I want you to tell us the story.
Yeah, so that was a fun one. Yeah. And we discussed that for, I think, at least like half a year maybe. Because like the first design models of it, and you might have seen it in Nice, like we've shown it. We had mirror cams on here first, and that's what we thought we were going to go with. And then what we did is basically took it apart, because all sorts of departments have an influence on that, right? Because it's not just aerodynamics.
Yeah.
If you have a mirror cam, then you get displays in the car, you have wiring in there. Weight is always a thing you look at. Also, it's about how's the usage, right? So you want to have a nice, like, the visibility of it all is important to it. And in the end, with this car, the rear view mirrors that we have on here now, they were just a better overall compromise for the car. And that's why we decided we need to go that way, because we want to have the best efficiency compromise on the car.
It turns out the aero on those mirrors was better than the weight you would have added by putting all the electronics.
If you sum it all up, basically, right.
And so that goes to show how sometimes you simplify.
And maybe just as a like little side info there, if you look at like normal mirrors right now, those are different than this one, right? We have all sorts of things in there. Like we started putting them in there over the years, right? Kinds of blinkers, projectors, sensors, all sorts of things. That makes them real big, right? And there's a price you pay for having a mirror that big.
Right.
So we really like focus down on efficiency, and this is why this looks different now. But I think we're really happy with the result of it, and I think it's important for the industry to like refocus on things like this, right? We've built mirrors like this for 100 years now, and this is maybe like a little bit like it gives it a heritage look in a way, I think, with the car, which I like. I like that.
Absolutely.
Because the mirror cam, you could look at it as sort of like non-realistic right now, because you don't see it that much on cars, and it's kind of like a trick we're pulling, but we're not really pulling a trick here. It's just a normal mirror, but it's the most efficient and most aerodynamic one.
And I think it feels very familiar too for people, which is great. So I'm very intrigued about the cooling system in this car, right? Like we talked about the battery being essentially air-cooled, and there's this cooling plate that I think you used to cool the motor, correct?
Right.
And then there's a radiator in the front, but it's only used in extreme cases when the car isn't moving, for example, in a very hot climate. So walk us through how you were able to kind of like, there was a domino effect of using this battery system and the weight loss and all the other stuff that came from that, using a smaller motor because you can still go as fast with a small motor. And it's just the dominoes kept topping. Yeah. And then you get this really crazy cooling system.
Yeah. So you're totally right. We do have a passive cooling plate in the front. That's on the bottom of the front of the car. And air just streams over that. And whenever we want to cool the electric motor or the inverter, we can pump coolant through there and cool it down that way. Right. The great thing about that is it's not actually in the wind. So wind does stream over it, but it doesn't increase the drag coefficient of the car.
Right.
So we're basically drag neutral, which with this, like, that's perfect. That's what we want, right? No cost at all in terms of aero. We do have an active solution too. As you've said, we can open up shutters in the front, which more and more electric cars start doing that. Yeah. We've built that in case we want to cross some mountain range somewhere or want to go faster than like we usually would, we can open that up. But this is like, we don't need to open that for like 140 kilometers an hour on the Autobahn. This is more for more like special like slopes and stuff like that.
Got it. Or stop and go traffic jam.
One fun thing is, though, which we've like sort of found out, because you need to decide to put that in there right at the start, basically, right? But now with the overall system and the overall efficiency of the drivetrain, which is at 95%, We're only losing 5% of the energy on the way from the cell to the wheel. We're not creating a lot of heat. So now in the end, while using this car, and I think it's nearly driven 20,000 kilometers now, this thing, which I would have never thought we were going to do.
It's kind of amazing. That's the other thing, compared to a normal concept. This thing has done miles.
A lot, yeah, way more than I would have thought. I would have bet that we're not even doing half of that. But in the end, we're not using the active cooling a lot because we've cut down on heat creation so much, which is basically the same as increasing the efficiency of the drivetrain. We're not losing energy in heat form, so we don't need to get rid of it. And then we don't need the cooling system to get rid of it. And then we get lighter, and that means less energy. And it's that kind of spiral that we're just in.
Toppling dominoes. Right. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. I want to talk quickly about Aero and then the infotainment before we wrap up. So Aero, obviously, the car, you can see in the video here, is really sleek, but you have this active rear wing that's kind of positioned down low. It's really cool looking. And all this together with the lower weight just makes it like incredible aerodynamic. Like, what's the drag coefficient right now?
So if the car is in the most aerodynamic setup, that means the front is closed, the shutters are closed, no active cooling, and the diffuser in the back that you just talked about is fully extended, then we're at 0.17 drag coefficient, which is the best EQS setup you can get is 0.2, which is basically the best you can get in series production
right now, yeah.
And that step, it's kind of, those coefficients are kind of tricky because it's such low numbers, right? You'd think 0.2 to 0.17 is not that much, but that is quite a leap. That's really
incredible to me.
Far.
But I think a lot of that to do is it's a very low strong car, right? Because you don't have a thick battery module in the middle between the front and rear axle, so you're able to put the driver, the passenger, the cabin lower, and you reduce the frontal area and blah, 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 again, dominoes. The infotainment is insanely cool. It's an entire micro LED panel that spans the entire dashboard, right? And you have basically made a bunch of optimizations around that. So it's like, tell us a little bit about that. And I know that you have a solar panel on the roof as well.
Sure thing.
That adds more efficiency and helps power the infotainment when you're stopped, for example, or whatever. And of course, the heating, cooling inside the car. You still need to cool the humans.
We do. Heat them and cool them.
So annoying.
Well, it's nice when you're in the car.
I know, right? So tell us quickly about the infotainment and what's different from what we're basically going to see 5 years, 10 years from now in a Mercedes.
Yeah. So we do, as you said, we have a huge screen, pillar to pillar, has no seams in it, right? It's the next step up from the hyperscreen. So we had a lot of room to play with, right? A lot of canvas to fill, really, right? Yeah. Which is, that's a new kind of challenge, right? Once you get to that level in terms of hardware, then you need to figure out the software for it, right? And that's what the team did. So what we have in there, which is really a fun thing to have with an efficiency car like this, we have a bunch of tech views, what we call them in there, which give you all kinds of data about the car, about what's happening in the situation right now, right? Just the live sensor data of it. So
I love the view of the airflow over the car. So you know you have a side wind or something. The fact that the car can sense that, display that on the screen.
Yep. Because that's super important. Like, we looked at those kinds of like sensor values for the long drives that we did, right? That does have an impact on it. So it's important to inform the driver, like, what is the situation. We can change how aerodynamically efficient this car is by getting the diffuser out, opening the front, closing the front. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's just a fun way of seeing it in a like nice 3D model, right? That you can like look around and just get all the information about the car.
No, it's pretty awesome. I loved it. One final thing, how can you explain to the audience why the battery is just air cooled and why that's not a problem? Because everybody always asks, like, it's not going to work. What if it's hot? What if it's cold?
So basically, that is also an early decision with a car like this, because as you've said before, it's a sleek car, right? It has a small frontal area, and the battery cooling is part of that, because the more stuff you put in a battery, the thicker it gets, right? So this cuts down on the height of it. The reasons why this works here, it's a number, right? So what's important is what kind of cell you have in the battery. So
it's a battery chemistry thing in part.
Also, because the less heat is created in the battery during usage, the less heat you need to get rid of, right? We do have the ability to have the bottom of it basically also act like a cooling plate. So that's also metal, so heat can also be taken away from it. And the fun thing while using this car, and you've driven it in Immendingen, it was pretty hot back then, right?
It's pretty great.
It's basically always at ambient temperature, so we didn't have a lot of problems with that. One interesting caveat to take away from that. A lot of cars now, and we look at that too, focus on fast charging. We didn't do that with this car on purpose, right? We discussed it a lot, but in the end, we didn't choose that because then you would need huge cooling, right? We don't have that. Cool thing is though, because the car
still charges fast. Don't get
right.
No, it's not the same kind of fast as you used to in your normal EVs right now, but it's good enough to get you going on the road quickly.
Especially if you look at how much mileage you get per time, because that's really what we want, mileage per time. In the end, the customer rightfully doesn't really care about what kind of number there is, right? What really matters is what mileage am I getting. And here we're charging 300 kilometers per 15 minutes. We didn't try to optimize that. This is just a takeaway from focusing on efficiency and having a car that's really doesn't take a lot of energy.
Well, listen, Malte, we have to wrap up. So thank you so much for your in-depth look at the EQXX tech with me. I know there's so much more. We can't do it all in 15, 20 minutes, but I really appreciate that we tried. Yeah. And thanks again for being my guest on the show. And hopefully we'll have you on the show again.
You're welcome. Man.
And now, folks, I've got Nick Gray coming for the rest of the news and, of course, all of CES 2023. So stay tuned for that. So, hey, folks, we're back with Nick Gray, as promised, but I've managed to recruit Christian de Looper as well. So, Phandroid on one side, BGR on the other. Let's fight.
Let's fight. That's what we're here for.
So, look, folks, it is January the 4th. It's the day before official CES, the second press day. Yep. We are racking our brains trying to figure out what to talk about. There's a lot to talk about, but we have to be selective. We have about 40 minutes to talk. So I'm thinking...
Our heads are swimming.
Yeah, there's so much, and we haven't quite decided yet what we feel are kind of like the CS moments. But we have some ideas, right, Nick?
We do. I mean, there's some things that are the usual suspects that, Lenovo announces 1,000 things, and there's always a lot of smart home stuff. But there seems to be not a whole lot that truly stands out as far as comes out of left field and surprises us. But there's a lot of good products that were announced this week.
Yeah. What's your take on this?
I mean, especially with the smart home stuff, all the cool stuff that's going to support Matter and all that kind of thing.
That's the big story. Matter is finally here.
Well, it's coming.
Coming
at some point this year.
We have a product coming with Matter, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually excited about Matter. I wish Google had invited me to their thing, but you're going to tell us all about it on Phandroid, aren't you?
We definitely are.
Okay, good.
If they are exciting enough, because there's so many smart home products that are just, the announcement was we are supporting Matter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not new.
Yeah.
Or we're rolling out Matter to products that, honestly, that's for me, that's the most exciting thing. We're backwards compatible, rolling out Matter to devices that are already on the market, which means consumers get a benefit for something they already purchased.
The one exception seems to be Eve, which is shipping Matter-compatible products soon.
Eve?
I don't have the specific date, but they did announce it.
Yeah.
Remind me, Eve?
Eve, they've been making HomeKit products for quite a while now.
Okay.
Eve Energy, they have a plug. They have
Wait, HomeKit is actually a thing? There are products on HomeKit?
There are tons of great products on HomeKit.
I'm joking, but I never see them. I just don't see them in people's homes. I go to people's homes and I see Schlag locks, or maybe some August, or I see some Nest cameras, some Ring cameras. I see, a Philips Hue hub, but I never see any HomeKit stuff.
They're a bit slim pickings, which is why, as someone who has a HomeKit home running, I'm so excited about Matter. Yeah, me and my wife, we use Apple because she uses iPhone. It's just easier for us. Mm-hmm. So that's why Matter is going to be so great for me, because I'll get so many more products to use in my home.
Yeah, I mean, from the iOS perspective, it's very limited with HomeKit versus the Android side. We do have a wide selection.
Huge.
But it's always been, well, are you going to do Alexa? Which app are you doing? Are you doing Google Assistant? And we have choices, but it's very hard to find a single unified ecosystem.
Yeah.
That now with Matter and Google Home app being able to just use one system and get things set up in seconds.
I'm super excited about the universality of it. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Because I use HomeKit, but I still have a Nest. And so we still have to have at least a few apps going at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question is, though, because the first devices that were announced a couple months ago when they were like, Matter's finally here, but they were still like, but we're not fully compatible. We're choosing our API integrations on certain levels, but not certain other ones. I'm waiting to see what all these companies saying we are going to be Matter compatible.
Yeah.
What the actual implementation is going to be, because I still think the first year is still going to be crazy and hectic.
It's going to be a bit rocky, and it seems like cameras are the big thing that are kind of yet to come.
So what's your home system right now? Like a mixture?
Our smart home integration, we are a Google Assistant home. We don't do the Alexa stuff. I have some Alexa devices that are like on my shelf for display in the back for my videos, like their smart display that swivels and stuff. And I'm like, cool. That's cool. I set it up and never used it once because Alexa sucks. I mean, there were the last couple of months, there's been people doing side-by-side Alexa and Google Assistant. And like, Alexa is the worst.
You just triggered everybody.
Well, it's not just the drop-off in skills, but it seems like Alexa skills specifically have kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit.
Well, but that was the thing. It was always, they were pushing these skills so much. And that was like the highlight for a while. And then nothing else happened. It kind of like fell off a cliff. And there hasn't been any innovation from Amazon at that point. But I think that my smart home setup is mainly Google Assistant. And I have a variety of webcams, smart plugs from different brands. Yeah. But for each one of these, I have to have a different app installed. That's the worst. And for me, as someone who reviews smartphones, I'm going through smartphones all the time. Ugh. And it's like, am I using this phone for 2 to 3 weeks? Can I get by without installing 7 smart home apps on my phone and logging into them? I know. And so it's the pain point that we have with our specific jobs that most people don't have. Yeah. So it's not something that the average consumer is going to have to do. But when they do have to upgrade their smartphone or buy a new tablet, you have to log into all these different apps. And with Matter finally here, you should be able to do a single app. You can choose which app you want that's Matter compatible. And
that's a big deal.
It's huge. But though, we're going to have to wait for 6 months to see, is it actually going to be as smooth as what we're hoping it's going to be?
I just hope, like a lot of the companies have said, yes, our products are Matter compatible through our hub. So you still have to download the TP-Link app to use TP-Link smart home devices with Matter because they all work through the TP-Link hub.
And to that point, Samsung announced a new hub.
Yep.
That has Qi wireless charging in it. So now you can put it on your desk. And
it's pretty.
It's not pretty. It's just a little cube or whatever. But they added new functionality of it's a wireless charger now, which makes it a dual purpose device, which is great. Like, like if you have to have a little hub, add wireless charging on the inside.
Sure. Yeah. My biggest thing is I'm a mostly Google Assistant based, but I have some, I got some free Ring products early on and I'm using them. And so I still have some Alexa integration. And I, want to one day get rid of them because, as you said, it's not that great on the ecosystem from Amazon. But what I'm excited about is, to see how Matter integrates with some of the older standards as well. Like, I would love to see a single app, of course, but I'd love to see somebody create like a Matter to Zigbee bridge. Sure. Because all my stuff is almost all Zigbee. Yeah. And it's because it's mostly bulbs. And as I mentioned in last week's podcast, when Shannon and I talked about home automation, I buy these Cree bulbs, $9, Zigbee, dimmable. You pick your color balance, like your temperature. Yeah. They're not RGB, right? No. But they're $9. Yeah. And they work. They're a smart bulb. They work with any Zigbee hub, including Philips Hue, which is what I'm using as my hub. Not with Philips Hue lights, mostly with generic Zigbee stuff. I have Zigbee switches for like lights to turn on and off. Yeah. I have a few other Zigbee outlet switches so I can turn on a fan and stuff. And I got all these over the years. They're old and I don't want to get rid of them all. So I'm hoping that we see somebody like Hue or Smart Things come out with not just a Matter compatible hub, but one that incorporates Zigbee, so you have that backwards compatibility of Matter.
Someone's going to have to do it
because it's going to be awesome.
Because there are enough devices on the market that are Zigbee devices that people will buy this extra hub to make all these devices backwards compatible with Matter.
Yeah, someone will do it, but it will be kind of a stopgap solution because one of the big things missing will be thread integration, which is the whole home, mesh network system, which those Zigbee devices won't work with.
But I'm right now I'm using Hue primarily because it's got a really solid support for Zigbee, and I tried Smart Things, and Zigbee support was. I mean, this is a few years ago. Maybe their new hubs are better, but it was kind of iffy back then. Yeah, not all the devices would pair properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so home automation matters. That's a big deal. But I want to switch gears to the thing that never really exists much at CES, which is phones. And this year is definitely very quiet. Like in the past, we've had a few interesting things, but so far it's pretty dead.
The most exciting one last year was the Galaxy S21 FE.
Of course.
And that's
right.
That whole line essentially has been discontinued. They haven't officially
announced
not
officially, right?
Not officially, but all the rumors and leaks, so it's like it's dead because the S21 FE didn't perform at all.
Well, I think the S20 FE really brought value to the table, but COVID changed everything.
Yeah, it brought value to the table because the S20 lineup was too expensive.
Yeah,
and so they corrected that, which meant the FE had no marketplace.
And COVID made the supplies issue harder, so it doesn't make sense.
And they launched it 6 months later.
Right. And then the A series is slowly infringing into the S series in some ways.
With the 50 lineup.
Let's speak of the, you and I are going to have a debate, and Christian, you can maybe moderate
I'll jump in. I'll have opinions as the moderator.
There's a Galaxy A14, is that what it is?
An A14, yes.
So it's $199, and what are the specs?
$199. It has a 6.6 inch display, Full HD plus.
Ooh, Full HD plus.
Full HD plus LCD, not AMOLED.
No, that's fine. 90 hertz.
5,000 milliamp hour battery.
Nice.
Yes, 90 hertz.
Does it charge at 3 watt?
It charges at
3 watt.
15 watt charging.
Okay.
$199.
What kind of processor? Is it 5G?
It's a triple camera on the back. It is a 5G device.
Oh, so it's the A14 5G. You forgot the end of the name.
It could be the A14 5G.
Are we still calling 5G phone with a 5G moniker?
I hope not.
So many brands are.
Knowing some of the phone brands that we know and love, we
so
probably
many
are.
of them are. I bet you that when we get our OnePlus 11s, they're going to be OnePlus 11 5Gs on the box.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, what processor do we know?
I'm gonna have to look that up because I don't know it.
But it's 5G. Probably MediaTek.
It could be. But so it's a $199.
Let's just give MediaTek some love.
Yeah, it could be. No, we're gonna give MediaTek some love in a second when we talk about something else. Because there's a tablet that I really want that's running a MediaTek chipset.
Okay.
But it is coming to AT&T.
Yeah.
Which means it's probably going to be coming to some of AT&T MVNOs here in the US as well.
Right.
No unlocked variant.
Yeah, but so, I mean, there are a couple other devices competing at that price point. You know, Motorola is notorious with their Moto G devices at that price point. My issue, and technically on paper, the Motorola devices are probably going to be better.
Well, I don't agree.
Tell me.
This is a reverse of what we discussed in the car.
Okay, so
because now that you told me this has 5G, and what did you say the camera system is about?
It's a triple camera on the back. I'm looking up the specs.
50 probably, like a cheap 50 sensor. Okay, look,
it is a Dimensity 700, 4 gigs of RAM, and 64 gigs of storage,
and micro SD.
Micro SD and 3.5 millimeter.
And the cameras? Do you have the specs there?
Hold on a second.
Just go to scroll.
Phandroid for the win right here.
Come back to me in a little bit.
Anyway,
come back to
so
me.
my original thesis was $199 for this, but I didn't think it had 5G. I thought the display was 720p, and I figured the camera would be some glorified 13 megapixel or 16 megapixel sensor.
2 megapixel macro.
As I said, yeah, of course, obligatory. And I was going to say 3 watt charging, as I was jokingly saying before. But in that sense, it wouldn't be much better than a Moto G Play, which costs $169. The new one, the 2023 one they just sent us.
Yeah.
I reluctantly said yes.
I don't have it.
I got it as well. I've simply unboxed it.
Me too. I haven't even set it up. It's just gathering dust on my desk right now. But the point is that phone has a 720p LCD with 90 hertz, has a G something 4G chip, the MediaTek 4G chip, one of the higher end Helios.
Yeah.
It has 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage and micro SD. It has a 13, I think, megapixel camera in the back and some kind of depth sensor, or maybe a macro, probably a macro because everybody does a macro and I hate them all.
I hate all the macros.
Anyway, unless they have autofocus.
Well, they don't.
They don't.
Usually.
Not at this price
That's the problem. But the point is that, okay, look, $169 for that Moto and also 5,000 milliamp hour, 10 watt charging. And it's really not that impressive. And $169, it works for this market, but this is a sub €100 phone in in India or something, like a dollar phone, right? The point is that this now has 1080p. This has probably a slightly better camera. It has faster charging by 5 watts. It has a Dimensity 700.
Which makes a big difference.
Dimensity is going to be a huge improvement.
Over the Helio,
and 4 gigs and 64 is they're way better than 3 and 32 for Android today.
Yeah.
And that to me, for $30 more, 100%.
Yes.
And you know what else the Moto doesn't have? Of course, NFC. And I bet you the Samsung does.
Probably going to have NFC.
So I take away.
I
think this
I've convinced you. We talked about you said convince me about how it's going to be better, and you convinced yourself.
I know. Once you read the specs, I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and so the U.S. market's only getting the black version, of course.
Why?
But there's
what other colors are there?
It's going to be white and like a goldish beige color.
I want my orange phones. Where's my orange phone?
I want that green that's been on all the...
My Techno is coming next week.
Yeah.
My orange Techno. Techno.
No, and so for a $199 device...
And I'm not even drinking.
But nobody's going to pay that full price. It's going to be discounted, of course, and you're going to get carrier deals.
I would say the only downside for me is the software experience, which I still prefer.
Right. Moto would be better, 100%.
Yes, 100%. But yeah, I mean, Samsung said that they're committing. I don't know if it applies to their A series, but most of their devices now are getting 4 years of software updates of Android.
Is that actually happening on that phone?
I don't know if it's happening on the A series, but their S series they are. So
okay.
Here's my hot take. I would take 2 years of updates on Moto's software over 4 years of One UI.
Really?
Maybe.
I mean, honestly,
high five. I'm in. That's totally true.
I mean, the last couple of reviews on Samsung devices that I've done, because I've shitted over the software on Samsung's devices over the last couple of years. I've just dogged on them for so long. I didn't mention how bad the software was, and someone left a comment like, "So you like the software now?" And I'm like, "No, I just didn't want to talk about it because that's like it for me. It is a pain point.
Honestly, it has gotten better, but I still prefer a stock skin.
Yeah.
No, look, I'm in agreement. My producer Theo has a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3. Everybody who listens to the podcast knows this, and I repeat the same story every time. They're super frustrated with the user experience. And I'm on a Pixel, and I feel like every time I try to tell them how to do something, it seems to take 3 more steps than what I do on my Pixel, and they get mad at me because rightfully so. It's just way more complicated on the Samsung phone.
Yeah.
So. But Moto is so much more closer to like stock EOS. But I mean,
speaking of Moto, they've got a device too.
Okay, so I'm actually excited about it, and you're not.
No, I am, but I don't think it's going to make a difference in the market at all. Like it's a good phone. Nobody is going to buy it. Like
no, but it's not the point.
No, it's not.
I'm going to show the phone to the Patreons who are watching on video. By the way, folks, if you haven't figured this out yet, there is a video version you get on Patreon. You pay a bit of money, you support me, and you get a video version of the podcast a day in advance of the audio version with extra stuff and swearing and all the good things.
And Nick's beautiful face.
And Nick's beautiful face.
And my trying face.
Here's the phone again, and it is a ThinkPhone. It's a ThinkPad themed cosmetically Moto Edge, basically, of some kind.
But it's Lenovo branded.
Yes.
Lenovo ThinkPad from Motorola. Like
that's an uphill battle.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
It's
complicated.
I was very skeptical initially, and I still am because availability and pricing are completely TBD at this point.
Okay.
And we're looking at in a few months from what I managed to tweak out of the PR people.
Correct.
But here's the thing. I went into it thinking, it's going to be another one of those Moto phones. It's going to have many compromises, and the software's going to be awesome. And of course, the integration with the business stuff, like the enterprise stuff, is going to be awesome. And hopefully, it feels nice because it's ThinkPad, build quality.
Yeah.
But then I looked at the specs, and I'm like, if they can sell this at a decent price, of course, with a bit of a premium for the ThinkPad branding, I think this could be a good phone because Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. You know how it is that we get the lesser edge phones here in North America? And this looks like one of the better edge phones that they sell abroad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The OLED is 120 hertz, but has perfectly even rim around it. You never see that on a Moto phone. Usually you get the 144 hertz, but then you get a chin at the bottom.
The chin at the bottom.
And it's a 1080p panel. It's only 6.6 inch, so it's not a huge phone.
Yeah.
It's got a huge 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 68 watt charging. We've never seen that on a phone in the US from Moto.
I do want to point out one thing. Motorola, it's even with the new Moto G that we just got, on their charging bricks, they're doing a stylish design.
They tell you
for
the charging speed. It's kind of
because usually you have to like look at the bottom of it and it says volts and watts and you have to do the conversion
and
to figure out
in
what
fact,
it is. And
I
it's
have,
like no. So the Moto G one was like I think it was 18 watt charging or whatever.
Here,
68 watt charging.
This is what it looks like,
on the
and
charging
here
bricks
for you.
And I mean, they're proud of it, and
that's cool.
Thank you, Moto, for doing that because now I can pick up a charger and be like, "Oh, 68 watt charger." I know what it is.
And this one is PD compliant. You can charge your ThinkPad and your laptops with it, so that's actually really cool. But continuing the specs on the phone front, 15 megapixel rear camera with OIS, 13 megapixel ultra wide with autofocus for macro, so no BS.
Good.
It's got a depth sensor in the back too, which is BS, but whatever. I'll accept it. I'll allow it. It has a bunch of cool features.
8K video capture.
8K video capture. Again, lots of storage and options. It's got, I think, 8 and 12 gigs of storage RAM option and 128, 256, 512 storage options.
Okay.
I don't know if it has wireless charging. Do we have specs on that?
Wireless charging.
It has wireless
15
charging.
watt.
15 watt. It has a in-display fingerprint sensor, of course. And here's the thing. The specs are solid and better. Like, they don't have the compromises like a Verizon contaminated Moto, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Where they remove things.
Yeah.
It's also going to be only 3 SKUs worldwide for all the band support. So when you buy a US model, it'll probably work in most places if you travel, if you're a business person. So there's a lot of things. But then I touched it and I was like, aluminum frame, no BS here. This is the real deal. And the back is Kevlar and it's like nice. It feels like a ThinkPad. It feels really good in hand. It's a little squarish, but it has enough roundness in the back that it feels really nice in hand. Stereo speakers. And I'm like, this is the best Moto phone I have handled and I want it. But
I'll say
that's why I'm super excited about it.
They messed up one thing with the design.
Oh, you're right about that.
They messed up one thing with the design. So anyone who has one of their ThinkPad, ThinkBooks with the logo on the lid, you know the eye is red and it's a light, it's a light up LED.
Yeah.
And I was putting
notification light.
I was putting the laptop next to the phone to take some pictures, and I closed the lid a little bit so you still see the keyboard and just lining them up perfectly. And as I closed the lid on the laptop, the light on the lid lit up red, and the phone was just there on the desk, and I looked at it, and I was like, they screwed it up because the phone does not light up. It would have been the perfect opportunity.
That would have been killer.
To be a notification light on the back of the phone with the red LED.
Yeah.
And I talked to one of the PR
here's
people.
what,
I was like,
here's
you
what
messed up.
He's talking about. Let me show you guys on the Patreon. I love how my Pixel is set up to do the eye thing where it checks my eye and doesn't do the orientation change. You see the little red dot here on the
bottom right hand corner
on the ThinkPhone thing? That's what should be a notification LED. But
version 2.
Version 2. I'm actually excited because I feel like this is one of the best Motos, including that Moto Edge 30 Fusion Magenta Pantone Edition that I've requested a review unit of. Although that's a Snapdragon 888 Plus, which is not that great. But I'm honestly very excited because this is finally a Moto phone that feels like it didn't get kind of Americanized. And
no, it feels like the Moto.
And it's going to have Moto software plus enhancements to integrate with ThinkPad. So it's actually not just ThinkPad, it's Windows 10 and 11.
Correct. It feels nice. Like the Lenovo team worked on it.
Right.
Have they announced pricing?
No.
Okay.
And that's where I'm skeptical. That's the place where I'm skeptical about it because it's targeted towards
enterprise
the
business
enterprise, which means top dollar. This is going to be a $900.
$999.
I don't think that's good enough. I don't think that they can convince customers at that price point. There's too many good phones at that price.
No, but like when you're talking about the IT department at a Fortune 500 company that's already purchasing ThinkBooks that are overpriced.
Sure.
It's just another line item for them, and they have these, like, you're talking corporate budgets for people that are buying thousands of laptops at a time.
Well, we'll see. I'm not
sure. So it's not a consumer phone. You will be able to buy it directly from Lenovo.com.
Yeah.
You're never going to see this in the wild.
I'm not convinced the ThinkPad brand is enough to sell.
No, the thing is, it's going to be the buying manager at a Fortune 100 company who sees this new thing pop up, and they're like, "Oh, we could buy some ThinkPhones. Okay, let's do that."
Yeah,
but it's only going to be like, "Oh, this is cool. I want this, so I'm going to make the company buy it."
Yeah,
right.
And that's the only way these are actually going to sell.
Now, there's no
incentive for a regular consumer to go out and buy.
There's another thing that's great, other than the fantastic hand feel, and if you love the ThinkPad, I don't own a ThinkPad. I actually have an old ThinkPad 600 from 1999 that I run Linux on.
Sure.
That's the only ThinkPad I have. But if you have touched a ThinkPad, you know how they feel so great.
Yes,
they're so well made. This thing feels like a rock, and it's mil-spec, drop and dust and water resistant, which means that it's designed to take a beating. It's got Victus Gorilla Glass in the front, that aluminum frame, and this basically Kevlar reinforced plastic back. That thing is, you're going to be able to step on that thing and not break it, which on a concrete floor in a factory, which is amazing.
Step on the thing and not break the back. The glass on the front.
Do you think the Victus will break?
If you step on, yeah. So they were clear to say it's mil-spec. The back is mil-spec.
Okay. And the frame, they said the frame is mil-spec.
It's aluminum. So like aluminum's not going to break. But
it's gonna
the glass is the Victus is glass is good.
The Victus is Victus.
Yeah. I mean it's the same as any other
I don't know, there's something about that phone that I went into it going, yeah, and then I touched it today and I was like, oh wow. Oh wow. I want it so bad. And you should have seen the Moto PR people, they lit right up. Like,
I'll bet.
Yeah. Because it's like always, I'm the one, who talks to Doug at Moto and said like, come on, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why? And then this time I'm like, okay, guys, I mean, other than the lit up eye as a notification light, that would have been super dope. I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. This is going to be my Moto phone of choice. Yeah. And it's a Lenovo. So, but speaking of phones really quickly, I want to wrap up on that and maybe move on to tablets because there's some Lenovo stuff you want to talk about.
Yep.
We do have to talk about TCL really briefly. Do we? Do we have to?
If you want to, they have a phone.
No, they have multiple phones. I actually want to. This
and
be
tablets.
Exactly. I want to segue into the tablets at TCL. So, I've got a summary slide here. I actually went. I broke my rules. I decided I wasn't going to go to any CES press conferences at all this year, and I went to the TCL one.
I saw you there.
Yeah, they kind of talked me into it.
Did they?
You should go to that.
I have no regret.
For the TVs.
All right, so we have 3 TCL 40 series smartphones announced, and they're all very, very meh.
But they're very, very cheap.
But you see, this is the thing that is disappointing to me, is that I have the TCL 30 series from like this year or last year, 2022, and compared to the 20 series where there was that Pro, which was really nice, aluminum glass, it had OIS, wireless charging. It's like even the 10 Pro before it, like they made an effort to make a kind of an upper budget, lower mid-range-ish phone that was premium.
Yeah.
And I miss those days of TCL. The 30 series had nothing like that. And the 40 series looks like it's even more downgraded in budget. So we got a TCL 40R 5G, $219. 5G, it's the only 5G phone in lineup.
And that's the highest end one.
Yeah, it has a teardrop notch and a massive chin. And then we've got a 40...
It's essentially in the same category as the A15 from
Correct.
Samsung. But I think that Samsung's got them beat.
This is a better display, though, for sure.
What were the specs on the display?
I don't have the specs in front of me, but it's 1080p. It's 60 hertz, though.
It's 60 hertz. So, I mean, it's probably a toss-up at that price range anyways, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Then they have the 40SE, which is a 4G phone, $169. And again, nothing memorable about it. Oh, by the way, the 5G model has a 50-megapixel rear camera. Then there's the TCL. So they're doing weird numbering now. The foreign market phones, actually, because there's a bunch more that they didn't show for North America because of CS in North America, but they're coming out with them. They're 400 series, so 40 and a number. 408 is a 129, and that one, I think my eyes would close before I finish reading the spec sheet. It's probably that bad.
Which means we should move on.
Yes, but what I want to move on about, which I was really excited about by TCL, was the TCL X12 Go, Windows on ARM, 2-in-1 laptop tablet thing, where it's like the old Asus, where you can slide the tablet and it's actually a laptop, not like one of those janky origami paper almost keyboard that Surface does. Yeah. Like it's the real deal. It's like those bridge docks for the iPad.
Yeah.
And it's got a Snapdragon 7CX or whatever.
Okay.
Like it is, I love Windows on ARM, even though it's not quite there yet, because I love the dream.
Like
I have,
if you actually used one, the
have,
dream has not come to reality.
But my point is, I have used them and it's not there. But I had an M1 MacBook Air, I have an M2 MacBook Air, and I know it could be done.
Oh, it can be done. And on Mac, you can actually run like Adobe applications. On ARM,
so this thing is badass. Like I just love it. I just think it's so good. I'm so happy it exists. There it is.
What was the price point on it?
They didn't announce a price yet.
Okay.
They didn't announce pricing for anything.
No, they did only the phones and the earbuds and some of the tablets.
Yeah,
I've got the summary slide here.
Tablets were announced.
But here's the thing. It's exciting to me that we see a company like TCL, which I feel is very conservative in taking risks, right? Let's be real. Their TVs are always, obviously, they're kind of the showcase.
The bread and butter.
The tablets are very boring. They're very much designed for kids, it seems to me.
Yeah.
The phones are very budget and basically for prepaid carriers. And here we have this thing that's like, ARM, Windows on ARM. And it's like this 2-in-1, but in a good way, like bridge. Yeah. I was like, okay, this is cool. But that segues us nicely into
Lenovo, which is, if you love Android tablets, which very few people do, but if you've been wanting an Android tablet that is not a $350 tablet that may have a large display, but the second you touch the screen, you realize the processor is from 9 years ago, and you have 2 gigs of RAM to go along with it. You might
mean
be
a Fire tablet?
Yeah, or honestly, some of TCL's previous tablets, some of Lenovo's previous, some of Samsung's tablets. So Samsung right now is kind of the leader in the Android tablet space if you want a high-end Android tablet.
Yeah.
But Lenovo just came out with their new tablet, and it's called the Lenovo Tab Extreme. That is the name. Yes, of it. It is the. So what?
That's a great name.
How much RAM do you think the Lenovo Tab Extreme comes with?
Just as a side anecdote, my producers behind the camera right now is literally shaking their heads at the name. Okay, but extreme. How is it extreme?
How much RAM do you think it comes with?
3
16.
gigabytes.
12.
Okay.
Base storage.
256.
256.
Good.
OLED?
14.5-inch OLED.
14.5.
Wow.
Who uses a tablet
That's
that
huge.
big? You can kill someone with that.
HDR10 Plus on the display. 120 hertz display.
So it's as good as a Huawei Tab.
How big do you think the battery is?
8,000 milliamp hour.
12,300 milliamp hour.
But how long does it power that 14-inch display?
12 hours of video playback.
Okay.
5G?
No 5G, Wi-Fi 6E.
Powered by
a Dimensity 9000 chipset.
Okay.
Which means,
that is kind of unusual considering they have the Companion chipsets.
Which means this is the most powerful Android tablet ever. Like,
how is that a good thing?
No, but like, if you are the person, like, you look at the people that walk around with the MacBook, with the iPad, Pro, and you're like, they're doing all this cool stuff, and my like, you can technically do the cool stuff on Android. They're just underpowered.
No, the cool stuff is the software.
True, but you can hack it and make it do. You can.
Doesn't Samsung have something that good, like the Tab Pro or something?
Yeah, but it's like 2 years old. The last good.
They haven't updated it.
They didn't update it this year.
Oh,
so it's
Samsung.
It's like a Snapdragon 888.
Have they announced pricing for this Tab Extreme?
$1,200.
Okay.
Okay. It's a $1,200 tablet.
$400 more than the base iPad Pro.
But here's the thing: it comes with a folio keyboard case.
Yes. Okay. So the iPad Pro plus the folio case gets to 1,000, maybe 1,050.
and pen integration and support for that.
Okay.
Is the pen as good as the pen?
It's the Lenovo pen. Like,
okay,
it's
so
the Lenovo pen. It
because
has
the
wireless.
iPad is like the reference.
Yeah,
right?
it has wireless charging built into the pen and all that.
And to be fair, the prices I'm saying for the iPad are for the
Base.
11-inch model.
For the 11,
so
this
if you
is a
want
14
a 14-inch tablet.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying this is going to compete with the iPad Pro, but this is the equivalent of on the Android side, which we don't have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And for years, I've looked at the Android tablet space and I'm like, why don't we have a good device? Like, just put all the specs in.
Yeah.
And if we want to buy it, let us buy it. They put all the specs in.
Is there a DaVinci Resolve for Android?
There is not. There is not. There is not.
We got a couple years before that.
No, but there are other premium video editing apps for Android that you can do on your smartphone, and they work on the tablets as well.
Yeah.
So you can do it. So like, I'm excited to see what the actual user experience is. And Lenovo has their productivity mode on some of their tablets as well, on their smaller tablets, which gives you like a dock across the bottom and stuff like that for additional mode. So kind of a desktop experience.
Yeah. I kind of remember that.
And it totally makes sense for a device this big. I'm excited to see what the user experience is. So as I said, it comes with the detachable folio case. It's magnetically attached.
Mm-hmm.
Once you pull that off, it has a second attachable kickstand that's built in that you can take off as well. So you can take it off.
Yeah.
You can take it off the folio case, and then you can stand it up portrait mode or landscape just on a desk without the folio case, and it all included.
And the pen's included?
And the pen's included as well.
Okay.
And the pen's included, and it's built in, so you can attach it to the top, the back on the top, or the bottom of it. And if you put it at the bottom, then when you fold it up, it folds into the folio case, so it doesn't come off.
That's
and
cool.
You slip it into your bag, and
It
it's folded into the case, so it doesn't come off.
How thin is it?
It's pretty thin. I would say like
6 millimeters. 7?
Well, 7 to 8. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it
sounds
massive.
good.
It's like 1.7 pounds, so it's heavy. That's just the tablet without the folio case. Or I don't know. It's interesting to me because we don't have anything in that space within Android.
Right.
See, the thing about this is interesting to me is that Christian here is like one of the biggest Apple users in the world.
I don't know about that.
But
I review a lot of Android products.
That's what I'm saying. But you're very heavily in the Apple ecosystem, so you actually know the Apple ecosystem better than most journalists that I talk to.
Sure.
That are also reviewing Android. You know what I'm saying? Most of them are Apple specialists at the level of Apple use that you have.
Yeah.
And so I think that the iPad obviously has many use cases, especially now with DaVinci Resolve and all that.
Yeah.
All the music apps and those, But I feel like for me, when I pull on Android tablet, the sweet spot for me is like that Redmi tablet that came out at the same time as the Xiaomi 12T series. They sent me one, and it's like $299 or $250, $249.
I remember that.
And it's like, it kicks ass. It's a metal and glass tablet, super thin. It's got a beautiful IPS panel. It's powered by, I don't know, like some Dimensity processor.
Yes, but it's an Asia-only
and it's
device.
10 inches, and you watch Netflix on that thing, and the sound is great, the image is great, and that's what I need on an Android tablet. I need more than that.
And that's what most people need. It's something to watch Netflix on.
I don't want a TCL crap tablet or a Fire crap tablet.
But like you can watch Netflix on any of these tablets. The problem is the second you press the home button, it waits 3 seconds.
Yeah, but not on that one.
Not on that one, but you can't buy that one in Europe or North America or South America. It's a Asia only device. Yeah, I'm saying it. I've used it as well.
Do I need more though? I don't know.
No, but you can't buy it.
Right.
Like that's the problem. You can't buy
it on Amazon. It's like imported. Like Redmi has.
Yeah, it's gonna import without a warranty and
whatever. Who needs a warranty when you spend $250 on a tablet?
Like some of these have you used some of these Chinese brands? They're not going to last more than.
Come on, Redmi is awesome.
I've had devices fail on me within 2 weeks from Redmi. So
really, I've never had any issues.
I've had to send devices back to PR. We're like, this phone won't turn on.
Weird.
Yeah, like
look. Anyway, the point I'm making is that to me, this is where I'd kind of cap it off with Android tablets. Like I get the iPad, although when it gets to iPad Pro, I'm starting to be like, come on, MacBook guys, because to me, I want a pickup truck, not a whatever. Steve Jobs analogy talked about the iPad, right? Like I want the heavy duty thing with a command, like look, I was editing plists files. The last thing I did was a plist Audacity file because Audacity is not compatible with the latest OS. And you have to kind of tweak it sometimes to get it to do things. Anyway, the point I'm making is I am more excited about the Lenovo Yoga Book. And the Yoga Book is kind of amazing, the latest one. I've got the specs here. So imagine a laptop, you pick it up, it looks like a laptop, and you open it up. Instead of a keyboard and trackpad, it's got a completely separate, identical display there. And both are OLED displays, and they are 13.3.
13.3.
So two 13.3, 2.8K OLEDs at 60 hertz, HDR Dolby Vision. And, the thing is thin. It's light. I mean, light-ish.
It's actually heavy.
Well,
I mean, when you consider it's two
it's
displays,
metal, but it's metal. It's beautifully made.
It's a lot heavier than their regular yoga.
Yeah,
devices.
of course, because the yoga books are pretty light. Yeah. Windows 11, Intel Core i7 U series, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, and stereo speakers, big battery, USB-C, 3 of them, Wi-Fi 6E. Anyway, it's good. But here's what blew my mind about it is that you put 8 fingers on the bottom screen in laptop mode, and a keyboard pops up with a trackpad, right? And then you slide the fingers down, and the keyboard moves to the bottom where the trackpad would be, and you get two kind of like Asus, style workspace display areas that you can configure. And then it comes with a magnetic keyboard
put over the glass
that you can put over the glass, and instantly the trackpad appears at the bottom. And if you slide the keyboard to another magnetic lock on the bottom, you get the 2 extra workspace displays.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, I'm not even a Windows user, and I'm like, I want this so bad. This is like, and you don't have to worry about, one of those. They've made the one that has the folding screen, right? So you don't have the stress point of the fold. Yeah. It looks and feels really solid. I don't know. It's perfect.
So it also comes with a folio case for the keyboard that then allows you to stand the laptop up.
So I actually have that as a photo.
So it stands the laptop up so it looks like a dual display
like this,
stacked on top of itself.
Cool.
And then the keyboard is on the bottom.
So it's kind of insane. So that's it open, stacked on this little, folio stand, and then the keyboard is magnetically attached at the bottom. Crazy.
That's kind of cool.
That's cool. I mean, that thing kind of blew my mind because, the Yoga Book, when it first came out with the one half was e-ink. Mm-hmm. I got one, I was reviewing it, and it was super thin, and I loved it. It was a little slow and compromised. There was a lot of issues with it. But I could see the future. It was like, like I really, truly believe that our laptops in 5 years, 10 years are going to be all like this. Yeah. It's going to be totally standard.
The only thing
and probably folding in the middle, like an actual one-piece display that folds.
The only thing that, for me, is I love the tactile feel of a keyboard and typing. I sat there for 5 minutes, like trying to record video of me typing on the screen. And I was like, this just feels...
That's why you have the keyboard.
No, I know, but it was like, this just feels wrong. I need the magnetic keyboard.
Yeah.
But then also, the magnetic keyboard is like, it's so easy to close your laptop and walk away versus close the dual screen, and then you have to wrap up the keyboard into the folio case, and then the folio case doesn't magnetically attach to the outside of this.
Yeah.
That's one thing they missed. The folio case should have magnetically attached to the outside. So that you don't have two separate things. Gen 1, Gen 2 is going to be better. Gen 3 is going to be better than that. As you said, in 5 years, this could be the future. Right now, I don't think. It's really cool.
It really surprised me because I knew that was kind of a logical thing. I have to do the e-ink, that they would go to full display.
Well, and then, so it is the yoga hinge as well. So you can flip it so that it's like tent mode. So you have one screen looking at you and someone else on the other side of the table is looking at another screen. You can do like a presentation, a sales pitch to somebody. So there's lots of use cases for it. It'll just be interesting. I don't think they had the price on it yet.
No.
Like, I'm just imagining this is $2,400.
Yeah, it's going to be expensive.
It's going to be expensive.
We're running out of time, so I want to rapid fire some other things. We're going to talk briefly about some car stuff and some AR stuff. I saw TCL had AR glasses that were powered by Snapdragon XR2, and they looked a little chunky, but definitely more manageable than the previous ones, right? Wouldn't you say? Here they are, called the TCL RayNeo X2. Here it is for the folks on Patreon. And they looked more manageable. The guy's actually wearing them in this photo, and you can see he kind of looks like, he should be like some kind of villain because the glasses are so thick. But
super villain.
But look, it's cool. It's got a camera built in, speakers built in, everything.
That's cool.
So I mean, we're finally slowly getting to the point where we might see some AR devices that are glasses that are standalone that can be used for a few hours that are not too chunky. And slowly, but it's every year it's a bit of an improvement. So that's got me excited.
Yeah.
The other thing that got me excited is in car world. Obviously, I've talked about EQXX at the beginning of this podcast, but I want to talk quickly about the fact that Volkswagen launched a new EV called the ID.7, and I don't know much about it. Do you know anything about it, Christian?
Very little. I have to check it out still.
Yeah, me too. So, stay tuned for next week when I'll have more on that stuff. Sony announced that their partnership with Honda is actually coming to fruition, and they're actually going to launch a car in North America in 2026, which looks a lot like the very original concept that they brought. Mm-hmm. What was it, in 2020?
Yeah, 2020. And then...
Not like the SUV we saw last year. And the takeaway here is mostly that the name of it, which I thought was kind of a bad name, Afeela. A-F-E-E-L-A. So like A-Feel-A. Do you say it A-Feel-A? Do you say Afeela?
This is Sony plus Honda
creating
Afeela.
a new brand and Sony's providing the infotainment, the ADAS, the camera systems, the software, and Honda is providing the drivetrain, the manufacturing, the chassis, the body, all the stuff that's car stuff. And of course the EV part.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like this could work. I feel like the name aside, I feel like because Honda has not really, like all Japanese makers, kind of really, gone into the EV land, other than the Honda E, which is sold in Europe, which is a really small, low range, but really cool EV, kind of like the Mini Cooper E here.
Yeah, yep.
Other than that, they really haven't gone into a serious EV. They've announced that they're going to do it. And Toyota's done the BZ4X, which is kind of meh. Well, like the point is, this could be like an Ioniq 6 or Model 3 competitor if done right. And coming from Japan, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, but to be clear, Honda hasn't done a real, important EV yet, and
the city car.
They're arguing that they might by 2026, and so that's still 3 years away.
That's my issue is the time frame. They're announcing something that sounds similar to what we have now.
Yeah,
it's nothing till it's out.
Yeah,
and it could be that they have some battery technology developments because we know the batteries are evolving and they're getting better, and it could be that that's maybe something that they're working on that they're hoping is going to be available by then.
Yeah,
that could give them a leg up on the competition if they have something that's a next-gen battery system, right?
Yeah.
Did they say what the range is?
No, we don't know anything about it.
And that to me means they still haven't decided on it, or they have this battery system that could be next-gen.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, again, hopefully I'll do a follow-up podcast on the other stuff, because it starts tomorrow. More stuff's going to be announced tomorrow. Another thing that's going to be announced tomorrow, which by the time you hear this podcast will be public, is that Mercedes is going to launch its own charging network in North America, starting in North America, but they're going nuts with it. They're taking it really seriously. And I think that's exciting because no other car manufacturer than Tesla has done that yet. Okay. Well, Rivian's done it a little bit, but it's not high speed. They've kind of, they're out in the country network thing that they're working on. There's 10 stations, 2 years in or something. I'm exaggerating. There's probably more than that. But the point is, this is kind of exciting to me. But anyway, we should wrap up, and there'll be more. There's TVs, obviously. We haven't even talked about that. No. Strangely, Sony did not launch any TVs, which is kind of crazy.
That's insane.
LG did some TVs. Samsung did some TVs. TCL, Hisense. But that's not what we are here. We're about mobile. So you guys want to quickly pimp your respective publications and work and social media handles? Start with you, Nick.
You can find me on Phandroid.com and all the coverage that our team's doing this week. I thank my team for all the coverage because they're doing a killer job. Thank you, guys.
You're just taking photos and video, right?
I am mainly focusing on socials this week. So check out the Phandroid Instagram and TikTok and Shorts. Phandroids on Instagram and TikTok, or Phandroid YouTube channel on YouTube.
Cool. What about you?
I'm freelancing. I'm writing for Forbes and Tom's Guide, and I'm covering cars and digital trends. And I'm doing some reviews of BGR. And you can mostly just find me on Twitter, where I'll link to all of that stuff.
What's your handle?
At CDelooper, CDELOOPER.
Do you do Instagram?
Sometimes.
Okay, same
just
handle?
do Twitter.
Okay, just do Twitter. And folks, you know where to find me on the internet. I'm at Tankgirl on Twitter. That's TNKGRL. Like the comic book character, drop the vowels. Also the same handle on Instagram. Who knows how long we'll all be on Twitter this year? But right now, if you want to chat with the three of us, probably Twitter's the best since Christian's more active there. And that's generally where the conversations happen about the podcast. Insta is where you'll find pretty pictures of phones, pretty pictures of cars, of food, travel, cool things taken with phones. So check that out. There is also a couple of YouTube channels to subscribe to, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast, youtube.com/mobiletechmore. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the little bell, comment. If you want to comment about the podcast on a YouTube video, do it. I'd love to interact with you. So that's one great way to do it, because you'd be a little longer than on Twitter. And, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com. We're on all the big platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, everywhere good podcasts can be found. If your app lets you rate or review the show, please consider doing that. That helps. And then if you want to help even more, Patreon is where it's at. Patreon.com/Tankgirl. That's Patreon.com/TNKGRL. There is a few things there you can do that are basically going to help out. One tier is, I think, the one that you'll probably like the most is the video version. You get it a day or so, maybe 2 days ahead, and it's less edited. And of course, it's video, so you can see us hold phones and talk about stuff in person. So it's pretty great. And then there's also a Discord server you can join if you want to chat, and there's a bunch of other perks there. So check out patreon.com/TNKGRL. And please help me out if you can. If you don't like Patreon, I get it. There's a link in the show notes. You can click through it and get a PayPal donation to me, like buy me a coffee for $5 or something. I appreciate all of you who are on Patreon and those of you who have made donations on PayPal. So please help me make this podcast happen. Help me if you can. And then finally, I want to thank Audible, our longtime sponsor. Audible is where it's at for, audiobooks. If you like to read, but you don't want to read because your eyes are tired, or you're a delivery driver driving all day and you want to hear books, this is a place to go. We have a deal for you, 30-day free trial. You get to keep a book at the end. audibletrial.com/mobiletech is the URL. That's audibletrial.com/mobiletech. As you know, Audible is full of books. Some of them are really like massive, 11, 12 hours long. Some of them are really short. You have some short content there. They have some exclusive podcasts. Some of the books are read by the authors. I just think it's a really great ecosystem. If you love books, you should check it out. And you can use this link to help out the podcast if you're not already a member. So consider doing that. And I want to thank Audible for always being there for us and being our sponsor. And also I want to thank Nick and Christian for being my guests on the show. Thanks, guys.
Always a pleasure.
Folks, we'll have another show maybe before next week, but definitely next week. So stay tuned for that. And until then, cheers, everybody.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.